Hello and welcome. This is AlchemistExe, and we have a brand new protagonist link unit. As many of us predicted, he is dark elemented, and as a strike unit, there's definitely a good place for him in your teams if you've been waiting for him, if you've been saving, etc. Kind of like Lindrake, except he does magic type damage, which is nice. There's not really anybody else in his element that does that, so he benefits one from being a newer unit and just benefiting from power creep in general, and then he at the same time benefits from occupying a spot that nobody really else does. So I know a lot of us, me included, are pretty spent from the celebrations. There were a lot of really good banners. If you're going for a lot of things at once, there was a lot of good opportunity to do that, and that opportunity has not completely disappeared either. So it's definitely understandable if you're not ready to go for him now, but he's definitely a worthwhile unit to keep an eye on just because of that level of powers. Overall, he does a lot of damage. He covers a lot of AoE. He's got defensive utility in that he can create a shield for himself. He has a lot of HP. He can cure status effects. He can do alchemy effect veiling. Overall, his mementos are great. One of them is going to give skill use. Another one will give buff duration. So always very, very good. None of this should really be too surprising. Every time a protagonist unit comes out, they are always very, very strong. Most of the time, they either push the meta forward or they're just a really, really convenient unit to have one way or another. Like Diaz obviously pushed the meta forward. I don't know if Logi pushed it forward, but he's a very, very convenient one to have just because he's very, very hard to kill. A good unit to have in fire. Elizabeth, another one, just very, very convenient to have for her support capacity. Tina is the one where I'm not totally sure, because I really like her kit on paper, just being really, really dodgy, and then just being wind missile is just, there's a lot of opportunity for synergies. But it doesn't really do anything too innovative, and then you always have to be aware of just constant 100% hit attacks, which you can mitigate somewhat with Smire's dragon skill, but you might be in a position where dragon skills get overridden or you're not allowed to use them in a map. So Tina has one of those kits where sometimes when you really, really want to be evasive, you can't be. So there is that, but that nonetheless, though, she still does a whole lot. Like, she's still, in my opinion, the best wind missile unit. It's just that wind missile wasn't really something that had a lot of room for innovation in the same way, like having Kamui, where he is doing a damage type that doesn't get a ton of representation, and for the ones that do, none of them were really magic type. So he definitely is noteworthy just for that. So in the description of this video, I'll have links to the database. I'm not going to go as heavy into the mementos as I normally do. I want to keep this a little bit shorter than normal, just because I'm having a very, very busy week. I will say I was not ready for the release of Sword of Convallaria. I knew when it was coming. I played the last beta. I've started it. I've played it. I've actually played it quite a bit. I really, really enjoy it, so I'm definitely going to be putting a video about kind of the beginnings of my account and just overall first impressions, and of course comparisons to TAGA, because that's always our frame of reference. I will say just out of the gate, if TAGA ends up doing EOS after the main story is done, I could see Sword of Convallaria being the game to take its place, because there is a lot of comparison to it, but we'll save that for the actual Sword of Convallaria video when that comes out. And then before I do that, I might actually do one more TAGA video in between now and the next reset, hopefully, that covers how to deal with the language barrier, because I think that's something that's been talked about before, and I think sometimes I take the very, very small, like very minuscule, tiny amount of Japanese that I can understand, I take it for granted. So we can talk about the Japanese language a little bit and that kind of thing, but we will save that for later. Right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the banners. And here we are at the banner. So we'll start with the main thing here, which is Kamui's banner to get him. Same as all protagonist link units / other memento storyline characters. 20-step hard pity. So given TAGA pay, it's going to cost 40k at the most if you don't have good luck and you don't get any full rebates. And then if you were to chase after his secondary memento, then you'd be looking at 58,000 overall. Don't feel like you need to get the secondary memento if you are going for Kamui. It is quite good, but you'll always be able to get it later. There's way less pressure on the secondary memento because it's just treated like a normal limited memento. So once that initial time gating is done, it's going to show up on more things, whereas getting the unit themselves is more exclusionary, as in like they're going to be harder to get. If you're going to do a 10 step with a selector, you'd need to do it twice, etc. So unless you get a situation where it's like an anniversary type celebration where they're a little bit more easy access, there definitely is something to be said for going after them when they are brand new, when they come out. Now Edgar is also rerunning, but as usual, I don't recommend paying full price for a unit unless they're brand new. He is very, very good, so there is that, especially if you were in need of a strong water DPS. But he is getting to the point where he's going to show up in more gem efficient ways. Pretty much like Elizabeth will be the next one, and then after that it's going to be him. So just keep that in mind. And then same thing with his secondary memento. And then other than those two, there's really not much else. There's a couple of 7-step banners, but while I do love this format, the timing is just not good for them. And that's just because the selectors that they give are the same as what they just gave away for free. Same time cutoff with the January 30th or 31st, 2024. So that's everything right before Ouroboros. So like Logi would be the most recent unit you'd be able to get. And we just got them for free. Like I got myself a free Logi. And there's not really any other memento I would want to get besides that. And then even more so for units, just because so many of the units have been much easier to get, especially after we just got a huge swarm of free summons and relatively inexpensive summons. So it's not a bad banner style, and you could even find yourself potentially doing it if like you still have more units that you want to get that fit in that time period, and something like the coins are enough to sway you. Like if you're finishing off a link unit and getting another unit that you want. So I could see some people benefiting from it, just I don't see a large amount of people benefiting from it, just given the timing. And then aside from that, there's still some old banners. Last chance to guarantee Ouroboros, but hopefully you got her another way, because it's not a very fun type of banner to do, especially if the unit isn't brand new. And she should appear on selectors next time there's a similar opportunity. So something to keep in mind. So yeah, I wanted to keep it brief this time. But if you are summoning this week, I wish you good luck, and I will see you all next time.